Hey everybody, we're excited to have Katie on today, and we unfortunately aren't going to have Nell join us. She is having flaring and spreading with her CRPS, and she's taking next steps to look further, learn more about that, and for us to do more with that. And so, of course, she gives her love and was hoping that she could be here today, but I'm going to fill in for her. Bear with us for a minute while I go ahead and get Katie, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Hey,
Hey,
how are you?
God, this has been a long time coming.
Wow, I know. I want to talk a little bit about what she means by that, you guys, before we unpack your story, and also before I do that, of course, Nell's not here. Um, she has been having some flares and some spreading with her CRPS. Face has been red and some other
Yeah, I,
things.
I face planted in the bathroom yesterday morning and have
Yeah,
laid there for like 20 minutes. And I'm like, this is not a good situation. I live
yeah,
alone.
yeah. So she's learning more about
Hey,
it
Brian, thanks.
and taking next
Yeah.
steps with that. So she gives her love, and you, as always, she would have loved to have been here, but I'll have to,
Oh, I completely understand. I honestly, I understand. Yeah.
yeah. And you
I haven't done
guys,
anything for 2 days.
and Katie, you guys, I want to just tell this story just briefly before we kind of get too far into this. Katie was you were one of our first booked. You were part of the first group that we had scheduled. Hey Brian, what's up, man? And Country Girl.
Hey, Kyle.
Um, uh, and and then there were different things that kind of come up. In fact, we had you scheduled, and and then we had to cancel, and then we got you
Hmm.
rescheduled, and then we had to cancel
And then
again.
I had to cancel.
And so that's what you mean when you really get it, right? I mean, you're not going to just
Yeah.
cancel just and do that lightly. There were some things going that you'll have an opportunity to kind of share about what was going
Yeah.
on. But I wanted people to know she was part of the Turn TikTok Purple that we did back in March, um,
I,
and
I was.
that
I'm
was,
actually wearing purple.
yeah, and
Wearing it tonight.
yeah, mine's a little purple, kind of,
It
but
works.
then we continued to keep in touch, and months finally goes by, and we're able
Yeah.
to reschedule you.
Finally.
So I'm really
Finally.
excited to have you. You do a good job of sharing your story on your
Well, thanks.
posts. But as you know, this is going to be recorded and uploaded um, to YouTube, and so hopefully it's just an
Hmm.
additional platform that you can kind of direct people to, because there's so much to unpack. You bring both the mental and emotional as well as the physical, you know, pain aspects. Sometimes when we're talking to
Hmm.
people, it's maybe a little bit more than others. And then you've also gone just through some traumas that have brought some of that pain. So,
Hmm.
the full,
Mental, emotional, physical,
the
all of
full
it.
gamut of the various kind. I mean,
Hmm.
this, you're a good example in the sense of what we mean by pain comes in so many different forms. And,
And
and,
it's
and
kind of ironic that we're actually finally getting to do this in October. And I'm 42, almost 43, and I didn't know this until like a month ago that October is National Spina Bifida Month. I had no idea for the first 42 years of my life that existed.
yeah,
So it's kind of an ironic but a really cool thing that it's happening right now.
yeah, I saw
So
Misty's post about that she did
oh my god, she
for
sent
the,
it to me and I was literally sobbing in my kitchen and I'm like, okay, pull yourself together so you can make a post about
yeah,
this.
I'm sure she did
Oh,
that with
she's
you in mind.
amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I asked her to do something if she didn't mind or if she didn't feel good a couple
Oh,
months ago, and she's like, absolutely.
yeah, that's
So
awesome.
yeah,
Yeah,
she's
she's
the
great.
best.
Well,
So
great.
yeah.
Well, hey, I'm going to shut
Hey
up a little
Kyle.
bit here because I want to hear more from you. Now, I want you to feel comfortable with starting with wherever you want to start. A lot of your trauma has to do with childhood and whatever degree of that you're wanting to share and kind of how you know that all played out through the years. Just however you want to tell that story, go far back as much as you'd like, and I'll just give the floor
Okay.
to you.
Okay. Make sure my chair is locked so I don't move.
Yeah.
I'm actually sitting in the wheelchair so I don't have to sit on a hard surface. um, obviously I was born with spina bifida, which is a congenital, birth defect. My spine was not fully formed when I was born. My parents had no idea back, in the 70s. They didn't do ultrasounds as much as they do now. So nobody had a clue that there was going to be anything different or, wrong with me back
Yeah.
then. And so it was, new for everybody. And so growing up, I was the oldest. I have two younger sisters. And so, I was my parents' first child, all of that kind of stuff. And, it was all kind of new. And so, growing up, I was fortunate enough to be able to go to, I don't know what the term is now, but back then it was just considered regular school. There was no special ed. I was integrated with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
The bad thing was I was literally the only child from kindergarten through 12th grade in my school with any form of physical disability because it was a private Catholic school. So, they weren't accessible. They were not, made for kids like me.
Yeah.
And so it was interesting. It was difficult from a physical standpoint of just getting around and, getting knocked downstairs and all of those things and not being great in school. So I was bullied, I was made fun of, called every single name in the book, by kids, by teachers, called stupid. You'll never amount to
Are
anything.
you
You're
serious?
never going to graduate. Oh, absolutely. I had a math tutor tell me to my face, who was my dad's teacher 30 years prior, that I was the dumbest student he had ever tutored.
I am so sorry. That is
And I
terrible.
was just and I looked at the man, and I was like a junior in high school or something, and I looked at him and I was just like, I didn't say anything. I was brought up, you don't, disrespect, your teachers, your elders, whatever. Then I was just like, okay, I'm the dumbest person you've ever met. Okay. That's your opinion. I don't agree.
Well, and
We're gonna
and
move
and,
on.
and you're very susceptible back then, right? I mean, you're some
It was
some
the 90s, yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's part of what why abuse is that it has a way of making us feel like that something was true or that they weren't wrong in what they've done or said or somehow it was our
Mm-hmm.
fault.
Yeah.
And so there might have been at least some of that, right? That kind of putting that seed in you of, well, maybe I am stupid or whatever.
Yeah. And being the only kid with a disability, I was the one that the teachers picked on or the students picked on or whatever. And so, I kind of didn't really, I didn't have a lot of friends. I kind of kept to myself and, just went to school, did the best that I could and got out of there. And so, my first major, coming into this world was traumatic, even though I don't remember it, that was pretty traumatic,
Yeah.
dealing with, my parents dealing with what they had to deal with. Um, Thank you, Lisa. Love you. Um, and my grandfather, who I share a birthday with, and he was a physician, was there the day I was born because he was called in, said that it was one of the most traumatic things he'd ever experienced. And so, hearing that, I knew that he meant that, with love and, there was nothing, wrong with me. But it was just like, Really,
You
Grandpa?
mean your
Like, really?
birth? He experienced your birth?
Yeah, my birth was the most traumatic thing. He was like, it was the most devastating and traumatic thing I'd ever witnessed.
And was that because of
And
was that because of the degree of the spina bifida? Or
probably because I am considered to have the most severe form of spina bifida. It's spina bifida, and I might butcher the name because I've never been able to pronounce it. It's myelomeningocele, and that's the most severe form. But I'm very fortunate that I've been able to walk. I've been walking since I was 15 months old. Now, not so much anymore, but I'm older. But yeah, it was. They didn't know that there was anything wrong with me, and so that was why they um, said it was traumatic and said it was devastating. And so that was what was really hard. Um, and so I went through grade school. I have two younger sisters. Liz is 3.5 years younger than I am, and Sam is 12.5 years younger than I am. So my youngest sister just turned 30 2 weeks ago. So, and I'm in my 40s. And
mhm.
so, getting through school, and I was bullied. I was molested when I was 10 at a day camp here by the female camp director. And, I, again, only kid there with any form of a disability. She's going to take a liking to somebody like that. The the kid that needs the extra attention or needs the extra help or whatever you want to call it. And it's just like, and so those things would happen. Um, thanks, Nick. And I looked back on it, and it was awful. It was the worst 5 days of my life up to that point. I was 10 years old. I would go home every single night begging my parents not to send me back, but not saying anything because this woman literally put the fear of God in me. She's like, if you say anything, I know where you live. I will come find you. I will hurt you. I will hurt your family. I will hurt your sister. And when you're 9, 10 years old, you're like, oh, okay,
You
we're gonna
believe them.
respect our
That's what I
elders.
mean.
We're just
Yeah.
gonna, yeah, that's how I was raised. You respect your elders, you respect people in authority. And so I kept that secret for 21 years.
I'm
And I'm
sorry.
not necessarily laughing about it, but it's just like, I look back on it at 42, and I'm like, how did I survive you know those 21 years? And I barely did. Keeping that secret and just living with all of that shame and that guilt and all of that for that many years. And I've been in therapy since about 7th grade, and never did that come up ever until I was 32.
In terms of your memory, right? Your defense
Yeah, I
mechanisms.
blocked it all out. Or just didn't want to deal with it, so it was just on the wayside. I went through school. I graduated high school by the skin of my teeth. I was told that I was never going to graduate from high school. My parents even told me that. Never going to get into college, never going to graduate college. I have 3 college degrees. Can I work? Not anymore. But, I've always been the type of person, you tell me I can't do something, by God, I am going to do everything
Fighter.
in my power to prove you wrong and to prove myself right
Yeah,
that I
you're a
can do it.
fighter. Fighter, such a fighting spirit.
Yeah. So, I got through, thankfully, I got through that. I got to high school. High school was awful for me. And I know that people think that high school is like the best times of your life and it's like the greatest years and everything. And I was like, you know what? It's the worst 4 years of my life. I was bullied mercilessly. I was teased. And people are like, but you went to a Catholic high school. Aren't you guys all like nice and like hoity toity and like
Sometimes people in
respectful? I'm like,
religious,
no, we can be the worst people.
yeah, sometimes, and
No,
that's
it can
not
be the
just
worst. It can, no,
not just with Catholics. It's just
no,
sometimes
no.
in any kind of, there could be a tendency to have there be, judgment or standards, or you're not, or whatever, kind of like the superiority kind of thing, right? I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
ironic
Absolutely. Thanks,
because
Nick.
that's where we hope to find the most humble and kind people, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you find bad apples everywhere you go, you know?
Absolutely. And they're everywhere. It's not just, public school or private school or, the rich kids are all super nice and
Yeah.
super, everybody gets along. And, the not, the less fortunate kids are all terrible and, all of these bad things. They're everywhere. I graduated high school with some kids that are, in prison, so it's not like it's, money doesn't solve everything.
Yeah.
Money doesn't make everything perfect.
Yeah.
My parents have money. They had money. They have money. My life is not perfect, nor will it ever be. So, it's just, and so I graduated high school and I was like, okay, I'm going to get away from this town. I'm going to go to college, just get away and start something new. Nobody's going to know me, all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Not the greatest idea. I went to college 4.5 hours away. First public school experience ever.
Shock.
That was eye-opening. It was very shocking, but it was also great because I wasn't the only person with a disability on campus.
Yeah.
There were other people in wheelchairs or with crutches or, visual impairments, hearing impairments, anything. I didn't stick out like a sore thumb, basically. Thanks, Nick. So, I was like, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to start over. It's going to be great. And I left home at 19 and ended up going to my first, frat party at 21. I had just turned 21, had never had alcohol, had never, done anything like that. No alcohol, no drugs, no smoking, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And my girlfriends convinced me to go to this fraternity party. And I was like, okay, no big deal. I knew the president of the fraternity and everything was going to be great. That was the night, the first time I'd ever had alcohol. That was the night that I woke up the next morning on a couch in this frat house by myself with nothing on from the waist down and not remembering a thing. But I knew that I hadn't drank that much because I knew that I had to get home or, figure out a way to get home. And so I'm sitting there and I'm going, okay, first of all, where the hell are my car keys? And I didn't even, nothing registered in my brain that what had happened to me or what could have possibly happened. I was in shock. And so I found my car keys. I drove back to my dorm room. And I literally sat on the floor in the middle of my dorm room and just sobbed uncontrollably, just sobbing. And didn't call anybody, didn't tell anybody anything. Again, I guess very naive, very, not, didn't know what to think. And I heard rumors, and this was 2 weeks before graduation. So I've got papers to finish. I've got finals to study for and pass. And I'm dealing with, oh my God, have I just been raped? And, nobody's going to tell me what's going on. And so I finally hear rumors on campus that every girl at that party had been raped. Campus police stopped me one night, and this is in the middle of December in Indiana. So, in the middle of campus in Indiana in December. And this campus police officer, who wasn't probably much older than I was, stopped me, said, were you at, this fraternity house on this night at this party, all of these things. And I said, yes, I was. And he's like, what do you remember of that night? So, of course, I didn't remember anything.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, well, supposedly, these things happen. Do you remember this possibly happening? And I told him, what I realized when I woke up that morning. And he's like, well, and this, I swear to you, will probably make you upset because it infuriated me, but I was 21 years old and I'm thinking, you're full of crap. But again, authority figure. He basically said that I deserved to be raped because A, I had been drinking, and B, I was disabled. Hand to God. And I kind of looked at him and I didn't say anything. I didn't fly off the handle. I didn't, I can handle conflict pretty calmly, because I've dealt with it for most of my life. And I was like, okay, that is your thought. That is your opinion. But because he was campus police and a figure, authority figure, whatever, I didn't go to city police. I didn't say anything to anybody. So I ended up keeping that secret for over 10 years. So I've got the childhood secret from when I was 10. 10 years later at 21, or 11 years later, I'm having this again. And I do end up graduating. I can barely look at my parents' faces that weekend because I don't tell them anything. I don't say anything to anybody. Again, I just stuff it all inside, keep it all inside.
What schools what schools were,
where did I go to school?
Yeah, where were
Yeah, the college that I was going to at the time is Vincennes University. At the time, it was a 2-year junior college. Now it's a 4-year college. This was back in, I graduated from there in December of 2000.
And are you in Indiana?
Yeah, I'm in Fort Wayne. Yeah, I'm in Indiana.
Okay, because Mandy, I know Mandy's from Indiana as well.
Okay, I don't know if I know Mandy.
Yeah, it's okay. She's another person that one of our friends that we've interviewed. What was the school that you grew up with?
Where I went to grade school and high school, I went to St. Jude's Catholic school for like grade school, like kindergarten through 8th grade, and then Bishop Dwenger was high school.
So have either of those? Are you aware of either of those schools having other incidences kind of be brought to their attention to where they're kind of trying to prevent, because there's a huge awareness, right, that's happening right now with this.
I don't know about, because when I was 10, it was at a camp, and so it wasn't in a school. It was at a camp local to where I live, but it wasn't in a school. I never really spoke up and said anything when I was in high school. It was bullying. It was not, I wasn't, the only one, but I was the only kid with a disability. And so it was like, that part was, no one's going to stick up for me, I guess. And I mean, there were things that happened to me in high school that I did tell my parents about, and they flew off the handle. And I'm like, if you guys fly off the handle and do something stupid, I'm going to lose my parents. You guys, I can handle this. I can do this. We just needed to do this calmly and rationally. We don't need to fly off the handle. I guess that
I don't know
if you know,
Nell has, was sexually abused when she was growing up too for years, and just having that come back to her, at the beginning part of our marriage, kind of, and just having that be a shock to me, and because it impacts. I don't know. Are you married, or do you have a
no? I've never been married, and I don't have children.
Oh,
no.
Okay. Yeah,
so I'm by myself.
And so I'm just still shocked at how society we're continuing to learn how widespread it was.
It's crazy. And I mean, it happened again 11 years ago in my apartment that I'm living in right now. So I've lived through it twice.
And you bring up a good point in that it's not always coming from a man.
No, it's not. When I was a little girl, it was a woman.
Yeah.
It was a woman in authority, and it can, women can abuse girls, women can abuse boys,
Sure.
it doesn't matter the gender or anything.
Yeah.
It's anybody.
And that's one of the reasons why I think
Excuse me.
that there's been so much I don't know if enabling is the right word, but not having us confront it maybe as much as we have in the past is because so often these are things that are coming from the people that are in charge, whether that is a
Absolutely.
government figure or a school figure or parents or an uncle or
Hmm.
whatever.
The
And
priests,
yeah, and
I mean, we've, yeah.
yeah, and so um how to kind of get our power, so to speak, in strength in numbers as people are sharing their stories and things, to where
Hmm.
um, it's not just increasing awareness, it's not just helping people have healing and individual therapy, but that it's enough to where it, I don't know, somehow, I guess, can either, whether that's influence uh, people's behavior or to reduce it. I don't know if anybody has quite the solution, because there's always going to
Hmm.
still be free agency, right? And there's always going to be,
Absolutely.
you know, I think that a big win is the talking about it and having,
Hmm.
having more people that are in authority, whether you choose to have kids or not or whatever, to know how to have conversation about uh,
Hmm.
not just about topics of pain, but topics of sensitivity and using
Absolutely.
good judgment with the degree of detail, right, that's involved when you're talking about such matters,
Hmm.
and
And
have
I
it.
always said, if I had, yeah, had I been able to have children and had my own family, I would have absolutely, not that my parents raised us, horribly. I mean, my sisters and I were both, we are all three raised, amazingly. Our parents were very involved,
Yeah,
but, you know, you just don't think about those a lot of the time. And, back then. And so I always
yeah,
said that if I was ever fortunate to have my own family, I would, girls or boys, I would, teach them at a very young age, this
yeah,
is okay, this is not okay,
yeah,
this is good, this is bad, whatever it is.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so.
because there's one of the lessons that I think it has really taught me is that parents are well intentioned to teach their kids and to compliment them for being trusting and submissive, and like you said, whether that's respect your elders or obedient or whatever, and it's also good to protect them from a lot of the evils and wrongs of the world, so
Hmm.
that you're letting them flourish in as healthy as an environment. But at the same time, you also don't want to either over shelter them or have them be so naive to where they're they're more vulnerable than they otherwise could be.
Hmm.
Um,
And I was also considered vulnerable because of my disability,
yeah,
even before of, my parents, and it's not that I had a sheltered life. I just didn't have a lot of friends. I didn't
yeah,
go out. I didn't do things. I didn't go to the parties growing up or when I was in high school, like my sisters did.
yeah,
And so I didn't know what to look
yeah. There
for or
you
what
go. Yeah,
to talk
whatever.
about or
That's yeah, and
whatever.
that's a good example
And it's
where.
not, it's my parents' fault. I've never blamed them for any of
Mhm.
this. It was just, unfortunately, those situations happened.
Yeah,
And I mean, I've never gotten justice in any of them. The one that happened 11 years ago, I did everything you were supposed to do. I called the police. I did, everything, absolutely everything by the book, and nothing was done. So,
I'm
I
so
mean.
sorry. It breaks my heart. I can't. I wish when I hear of Nell and some of the abuses that she went through, I tell her, I wish I would have been there and, noticed something. I would have just tried to protect you. She had a cousin that was like that, right? That can kind of, sense when something was off, and he was protective of her, and
Yeah.
I'm just so sorry because
Thank you. But
that should have
you know,
never.
it's made me stronger. I'm in the middle of writing a book that I started
Yeah.
back in 2014. I met an amazing person on here back in April of last year. His name's Dylan Sessler, and he's the reason that I started telling my story and that I started speaking up because
Yeah.
I don't want people to go through what I went through, or even if they did, God forbid, go through everything that I have, they're not alone, because I felt so alone for those 21 years because I didn't tell anybody. I didn't have anybody to talk to
Oh
that I
my
trusted enough.
gosh, I can't
And,
imagine
I
what you've
mean,
had to carry, that burden. So that
yeah.
kind of
And I turned to food at a very young age. I
to
turned to
cope with
food,
it and stuff.
to coping, the binging, the purging, the eating disorders, I've done it all. And, the cutting and the drinking and yeah, I've done it all. Um,
And the
and sometimes
suicide,
I wake up and I'm like,
the suicide
what?
attempts is just like, you know, in that state of despair of, why am I
Mm-hmm.
even here? The worst, I mean, just kind of in that space where,
Absolutely.
it's almost like it's not a weakness space, but it's at that space where it's like, I don't even have the energy to like fight against the lie that's like beating me down right now, right? It's
Yeah,
just,
absolutely.
yeah.
And like my last attempt was 6.5 years ago. And, I had gotten to a really good place last year, ironically, during a global pandemic. Um, learned to love myself and my story. And a few
Mm-hmm.
months ago, I was right back in that spiral of, when the pain started and, not being able to walk anymore and having to rely on my parents more and, just literally not being able to do everyday tasks every single day. Taking a shower some days is hence yesterday I fell getting into the shower and, laid on the floor for 20 minutes. And so, I was right back to the, okay, what's the point? If this is what my life is going to be like for the next 40 years, what's the point of staying? And that scared me because it had been 6.5 years since I'd had those thoughts.
Yeah.
Thank you, Void. Appreciate that. Um,
Yeah. Misty's here now.
hey, Misty. Yeah,
Yeah, you
she
see
just
her?
popped in.
Yeah, on both sides,
Hey,
probably.
Misty. She was supposed to be making Halloween costumes, so I didn't know she'd make it. And so I finally spoke up. I hadn't been able to see my therapist, and so I finally was able to see him, and he's been there for me for the last 12 years. He was the first person that I opened up and told my entire story to at 32 years old after I'd been raped for the second time.
Yeah.
Jason was the first person I went to. He was the first person that heard my story, and nope, I'm not quitting. I promise.
Mhm.
You're not allowed to either. We're
Yeah.
not allowed to quit with each other. She's not allowed to go anywhere, and I'm not allowed to go anywhere.
Yeah. No, you guys.
Um,
Oh, you guys are
oh
worth way
no,
too.
no,
Really,
she's
you're
not allowed to
worth.
leave, and I'm not allowed to leave. I told her the other day if I had to hitchhike in my wheelchair to meet her where she lives, I will do it. I was like, I will figure it out. But he's been with me, and I contacted him and was like, I need an appointment. It's been 2 months. I told him exactly what's going on. He's like, okay, we need to figure this out. Because deep down inside, I don't want to die. I've
Yeah.
made it
No,
this far.
you're just
I've
not wanting to
survived.
hurt anymore. You're wanting to feel.
Exactly.
I mean, it seems simple, but you want to be out of pain. You want relief, and you want a sense
Yeah.
of worth. But that's where the
Yes, we will, Misty.
abuse. That's where the abuse happened, where it was damaged because the sense of worth is damaged, and then
Mm-hmm.
you've got the pain, right, with the grief, and so there's that need to kind of
Mm-hmm.
heal from it,
Yeah.
and
I'm grieving the life I had,
yeah,
3 years ago or whatever, when I could get around and, not so well anymore. Wasn't like I was, running around, but I could get out and do things and just get up and go. And now it's like, getting out of bed and getting to the bathroom is a chore, and it's like, I'm only 42 years old. This is not fair. What else can I go through? Hey, Siobhan.
well, and one
And
of the one of the one of the things that we talk a lot about is coping, because I mean you have people that are well intentioned. We talk about the religious community and people that have faith, and even leaders that are good people. You know, you hear a lot of, hey, if you want a healing at the, you just have that faith and a healing's coming and things like that. And I'm not saying that there's not a place for faith and healing, but I think that even with leaders or even just amongst ourselves, as we're sharing those kind of messages, we got to be careful, because that's only a component of it. I think that a big part of what the preaching or the message or the talk or the conversation needs to be is sometimes there's not going to be the healing that you do have faith
Yeah.
for. And what do we do, when we are left sitting with that,
And
where,
I used to try, when I was a kid and even in high school, I would sit and talk to God and try to pray it away and be like,
yeah,
can you just take this away
you
from me?
fix it or whatever.
And, it's like, I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to
Yeah,
be called, crippled. I don't want to be
that's right.
called, ugly or fat or whatever it is. And it's like, finally I had to come to the realization that this is who I am. I can't change it. It's not just going to disappear. The crutches aren't just going to disappear
That's
one
right.
day. The wheelchair and the braces are not going to go away. The stomach issues are not just going to disappear. And I was like, okay, we're gonna put our big girl pants on and we're gonna keep going, and we may cry for days on end, but
Yeah. I think that
and I
honestly,
think I've cried at least once every single day of 2021.
yeah.
At least once a day.
Well,
Yeah.
and
It's just, I mean, it's
oh,
yeah.
Katie, I know, I know that everybody, especially the people that are involved with watching these and following each other and things, um, they're all coping with something, and that's so hard. It's
Yeah.
so hard to just know that there's a place for gratitude, a place for a good attitude. There's a place for faith and hope and friendship and talking about it and therapy. There's a place for all these things, and they matter, but it never takes away the truth that I think it's difficult for us to face. And that is some of this might not get better in this life. Some of it might
Yeah.
not heal. Some of it might not be fixed. And I can learn to cope, and then I can get better at coping, and I'm willing to cope. I remember one day, if I could just share this real quick.
Absolutely.
I remember when I was struggling with my own issues, because I cope with OCD every day, and it's a pain in the rear. And sometimes people can't tell, but sometimes they can.
Yeah.
But I have to work hard, or it could really disrupt and cause things to fail in my life. So my success is absolutely just not an accident. You have to really work at it. And I remember feeling, if you guys have ever felt like where your life is kind of painted in a corner, and this is where people get, whether you want to think of it as tempted with suicide or in a condition of despair of suicide or whatever, you kind of get moved into that corner. And
Yeah.
I remember feeling like the doors, so to speak, in front of me, that there either wasn't a door to walk through, that door representing the solution, or the path that I'm going to go down, where that's going to move me out of this place where I'm feeling stuck, right, or damned or whatever. And um and I remember kind of thinking, all the different kinds of doors that people go through. People go through the doors of taking their life. They go through the doors of divorce, of separation, of, whatever. These doors are turning to, substances, right? These are doors that people go through. And the reason why they go through them is because they honestly, to some degree, feel like that's the solution. They don't see another way to solve it. And boy, I
Absolutely.
got chills, because there was a day where I feel like I was just prompted by my Heavenly Father that the reason why I don't see that door is because it's not there, and it gets created. The door gets created by my willingness to have it be an option.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't willing in a lot of ways to accept certain things and to cope with certain things and to walk through that door, right? Where
Yes.
you keep these other doors closed that I just outlined, and you say,
Mm-hmm.
I am willing to live with this. I am
Yeah.
willing to learn how to cope with this.
Mm-hmm.
And in doing so, a new door that wasn't there before gets created, and you're able to walk through it. And that was
Mm-hmm.
powerful.
Absolutely.
That was powerful for me.
Absolutely.
Powerful for me.
Yeah.
And I think that I have made progress, and keep in mind, I'll say that if that rings true to you, and if that's something that you feel maybe you can, do in your lives, whether that's through prayer or whatever, kind of coming to that space of, okay, you know what am I not willing to do, where I am creating my own closed door or my own limited doors kind of thing. And as I was starting to allow myself to be opened up to, this other option, I had major unexpected resistance inside of
Mm-hmm.
myself. In fact, I was pissed off. Like, oh hell no,
Oh, 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 yeah, absolutely.
you know.
Absolutely.
And so I fought that internal, even to the point where there was a side of me that would like sabotage that part of me that was wanting to be willing to do something different. And I had to work with that conflict, that internal conflict, until I guess finally the resistant part of me was like, okay, I guess I'm not going to win this battle. And the good part of me that's wanting to find a healthy way to cope with what I'm living with is going to get its way
Mm-hmm.
because it's being
Yeah.
persistent. I
Yeah.
hope that, does that ring true to you in terms of kind of
It
what?
does, it makes a lot of sense
Yeah,
because like even when I was in my early 20s, and I've battled my weight my entire life, whether really really small or really really big. It's always been something that I've battled. And so when I was in my early 20s, losing weight, for the first time quite a bit, my uncle, who's an orthopedic surgeon, said, at some point, if you don't lose this weight, your knees are going to give out and you're going to be in a wheelchair. And I said, no, I am, that is one thing that will never happen to me. I will never be in a wheelchair.
yeah,
No disrespect to somebody that has to be in one. I understand that wasn't going to be me.
yeah,
Jump to 42 years old, I'm in a wheelchair. Yes, I can walk to the bathroom, I can walk to the kitchen, but I can't get downstairs to my car anymore walking.
yeah,
It's not possible. I have to use the chair. So I had to come to the realization, and this was only, like less than 6 months ago. Okay, this is our new reality. We have the wheelchair. It's hot pink, but we have the wheelchair.
yeah,
And it was just like, okay, we have to just be okay with this. This is who we are. We're still the same person.
yeah,
We just move differently,
yeah,
and as soon as I can figure out how to get to Misty, we're going to do wheelies in the wheelchair.
yeah,
And it sounds weird and it sounds like so trivial and so stupid, but
yeah,
it's just like, I mean, having this chair has given me the freedom to go out and do something. Maybe it's for 5 minutes, maybe
yeah.
it's just driving to get coffee, but I can get downstairs without being completely winded and, my knees giving out. So
You
it's
remind
like,
me a little bit of Andy's journey. I don't know if you're following Andy's journey.
I do. I love Andy. She's so
Yeah.
sweet.
We're interviewing her in December, and you also remind me, and I think I noticed you pop in. I don't know if she's still here, but Annie, are you okay? Do you follow Annie? Are you okay?
I don't think so. I'll have to look her up, or you'll have to send her to me.
Annaril, ANNARILEYOK. Been she's agreed to be interviewed, and it's Anna Riley. We don't have her scheduled yet, but the reason why I just mentioned her is she, um,
Oh, Anna Riley, okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh, okay, okay,
yeah.
yeah, I do know
Annie,
who
I'm
she is.
saying that wrong.
I
I'm sorry, but
Oh no, it's okay.
she is doing a lot of what I get the same vibe and spirit from her in terms that she, the the positivity that that needs to be spread because of people have been, whether that's abused or traumatized, all these kinds of things. And there's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people that flocked to her, right, because they were
Yeah.
getting um, the benefit of what you're saying here, right, is in that
Mm-hmm.
it needs to be, we need to, talk about it, and we need to kind of have you know the courage, like you're so graciously demonstrating, to
Trying.
challenge some of those things that
Mm-hmm.
are inside of yourself, because you have to do that
Yeah.
first, right?
Yeah.
And then
Mm-hmm.
helping others to realize, you know what, if you haven't given yourself that permission to start challenging some of that, we're here for you. We're here to support you. Go get therapy. It's not something to be ashamed of, and help other people start challenging some of those things, because they might have been, they might be that person that is still.
Good night, Misty. I love you.
Hey,
Misty's going to bed, so I'm gonna
see
say
you,
good night.
Misty. Yeah, good
Love
night,
you,
Misty.
Misty.
Um,
Yeah,
you
and
know what I mean?
even like, and I started telling my story back in April or in May of last year. And I decided at that point, it was like, okay, I had hidden behind my story and who I was for over 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
And, had the fake smile and this fake, everything is perfect.
And you
We're
hit
just
it,
gonna,
and people
you know,
did not know
and
or
I
could
did.
see it.
I did it my entire life,
Yeah,
and people didn't know what I was going through. My own family didn't know what I was going through. Now, granted, they know now, at least my parents do, and it wasn't a good situation.
yeah.
Not super supportive. But I finally realized, and that's why I changed my screen name to my actual name, was because I didn't want to hide. And I will show you guys the good, the bad, and the ugly. You can get a video of me, happy and smiling, and it's real and
I
it's
see it.
fun and it's
It.
exciting.
Yeah.
And then you can get a video of me literally sobbing uncontrollably for 60 seconds, not even be able to verbalize words because it's real life. I'm not going to fake it. I'm not going to hide
Well, and
behind,
I'll tell you, a lot
filters
of
or
people,
pictures or anything.
you are extremely courageous. That takes courage. That's really hard for people to do, and
It is. And some days I'm like, I really don't want to post this video, but I need to say this. And I'm sure somebody else needs to
yeah,
hear it,
I can
because
guarantee you there are thousands of people that could, take this in and imagine where you were at 15 years ago ish or whatever. There are people that are there. And if they, come across
11
you,
years ago,
yeah,
11 years
yeah,
ago,
there
I
you
was
go.
literally sitting in this apartment sobbing, thinking my entire life was over because, I had been brutally raped and nobody believed me,
Yeah,
and he was walking away.
yeah, and we
And I was
don't
like, there's
come,
no way I can survive this.
we don't share from a position of, hey, look at us, we're so much further in the progress, and what's wrong with you guys. But if there
Mm-hmm.
is, more progress in anything in life, then if it is something that at least can show maybe someone that is in earlier stages for whatever reason,
Absolutely.
it gives them encouragement to be like, my path, we talk about these doors, right? How
Mm-hmm.
scary is it? And that analogy that I was giving, I'm willing to go through that door, but I'm kind of freaked out. What does that look like? What does that mean? What does my day-to-day living mean? Is it, am I agreeing to go through a door of torment that's never ending? And
Mm-hmm.
so having someone that has maybe, gone through that process of kind of creating that additional door and going through it, and being okay, at
Yeah.
least,
And it took me 32 years,
yeah,
I mean, I was 32 years old when when my story finally came out. And, stuff started when I was a toddler, it was just like a really little kid that didn't know any better.
yeah,
And so it's like, I always tell people, they're like, oh my God, I can't imagine, having to go back and open up all of those doors or open up all those,
Yeah.
Pandora's box of all those
Yeah.
emotions and those feelings and those thoughts. And I'm like, you know what? It's not fun. It's not easy. It's going to suck a lot of the time. I mean, I did intense trauma therapy with my therapist, and it was brutal. I mean,
Brutal.
I hated the man because I was the first one that ever did this therapy with him,
Yeah.
and I hated him for it. But almost 11 years later, I look back on it and I can't imagine not going through it, reliving it every single day and talking about it every single day. All of the horrible things that I have been through and knowing that I was never going to get justice, but I'm still alive. I'm still here. So I tell people, I was like, you know what? If you can't talk about it now, write it down. That's where I started when I was a little kid. As soon as I learned how to write, I was journaling. I mean, I've got so many journals. It's not even funny, Rex. And that's how I'm writing my book is, I'm taking all of that stuff and all of those things and writing this book
Well,
because
and just one
it's
thing at
the
a
book I
time. I
needed.
mean, what we're talking about, we both are talking about it, at least in our own
Yeah.
situation where we chose to go down a path other than these other alternatives that can be destructive. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and whatever courage you think that
Excuse
might
me.
have required, it is what it is, and we are making
Boyd, that's
progress.
okay. If you haven't been able to face your, that's one to answer him. It's okay if you can't face your past right
Yeah,
now.
and that and
Like I
that's
said, it
and
took me
and
32
that's what I was
years.
getting at. That's what I was getting at is that if progression is happening and you think that even a shred, like even a mustard seed of what we're talking about rings true to you in terms of what you're wanting to have more for your own life, the next question is, well, how do I get there? And just having the seed be there in terms of,
Yeah.
what, that's the path I want. I want to walk that kind of a path with my friends, and they're going
Yeah.
to
And
be
I
there.
always tell people, my DMs are always open. It's private. You want to tell me it does not leave there. And I
Yeah.
tell people, I even posted a video today. It wasn't my own audio, but, telling people it's like, you know, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to talk about the scary things or the ugly things from our lives.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, it took me 31, 32 years to open up about everything, and it was awful and scary and terrifying,
And
but
it was a process. It was a step by
absolutely.
you
I mean,
and
it's been almost 11 years since I started it, and it'll be 11 years in November that I opened up for the first time about my story. And you know
yeah.
what? It's been amazing, but it's been terrifying. Posting my story videos that I have pinned at the top that I posted back in May of last year, I had those sitting in my drafts for 5 days before I would post those. And they're with my really good friend Dylan. And I'm like, Dylan, I can't do this. He's like, yes, you can. He's like, just breathe and just put it out there. He's like, it's okay. Just do it and put it out there. And I did. And the response that I have gotten, Rex, over the last 18 months from people in messages or comments are like, oh my God, you saved me from, ending my life. Or,
Mm-hmm.
you allowed me to have the courage to tell my own story of being assaulted, being molested, domestic violence, all of these things. And I mean, I have goosebumps because it's like I spent 41 years hating my story, hating myself, not thinking my story mattered because I didn't matter to me. It didn't matter to me.
Yeah.
And it's like now people are saying that I'm making a difference,
Big time.
and
Yeah.
even, I mean, I have a very small page and, and that's completely fine with me. But I've always said if my story helps one person or saves one life, I've done my job
Yeah, for
and
sure.
I can die happy, and
Yeah.
just knowing that I've saved someone from ending their life is just, it's humbling. It's absolutely humbling.
Wow. I'm
Ooh,
I'm just blown
goosebumps.
away by you. I know Nell would
Ooh,
just be dying if she was here. She would just give a
yeah,
huge, and you know her. You've been following her.
I do. She's
She
amazing.
she would give you the biggest hug, and she would say, "I want to meet you one day." And oh my gosh, this I know that's how she feels and would feel about you. And
Can't tell you the last time I got a hug.
yeah,
I don't have anybody to hug me either.
Well,
Well, my parents, but no offense, they don't count.
Well, I know
Oh, no,
that
I'm kidding. They do. They do.
when we get out and about traveling, that's something that we'd like to do. I would love to give you a big old
You
brother
guys
hug
are
one
in
day.
Utah, right?
Yeah,
Utah. Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
In fact, it's interesting because one of the individuals that we've even put out there that we want to see first is Mandy, and she's in Indiana. So
I'll have to find her.
yeah, and Misty's kind of in that region. She's so if we get moving about, then
And I'm kind of close to Misty. Well,
yeah,
kind of.
yeah.
Few
So
states away.
I really look forward. I know that it's going to happen, but it'll take
Mm-hmm.
probably some time, and we'll have to figure out how that will all work. But when we go to an area, and we'll try to plan it in a way that it can be a number of people that we could see,
Mm-hmm.
some kind of a get
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
But
Because at this point, unfortunately, traveling for me is not that easy.
yeah,
At least by myself, I just can't hop on a plane and go
yeah.
somewhere anymore by myself. And that sucks because there are so many people that I have met on here that I would love to just hop on a plane or hop in my car and just
Oh, for
drive and meet
sure.
them. But I can't physically do that
Yeah.
myself.
Well,
So
I am grateful for technology because it still allows for you to create, real connections. It's not something weird where we're just interacting with just some phone. I mean, there's, the kind of
yeah.
benefit that you'd get if we were literally right here in the same room and things like that
Oh,
can still
absolutely.
absolutely still happen,
Mm-hmm.
and is happening with people. And I like that you talk about to that person that doesn't know where to even start. Don't let it overwhelm you. I mean, if you want to walk through that door of that we're talking about, and you realize I don't want to walk through those doors of suicide or this or whatever, or I love my spouse and I want to find a way that I can healthily cope so that something's easier for them, or whatever the circumstances are
Mm-hmm.
that you guys are facing. Just taking it one step at a time and reaching out to all of the friends that are available to you and the professionals. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big believer in faith. I've got my own issues with God, and we're not completely on perfect terms because I haven't reconciled myself with everything, but I can at least say that I know he loves me. I know that he's real, and I know that grace
Mm-hmm.
is a very real thing. And if it
I think
wasn't
he's
for,
mad at me right now, but he still loves me.
yeah, but he can take
He
it,
hasn't
right?
answered me back in a while,
Yeah.
but I'm sure he still loves me. I was like, yeah, I'm like, is the phone connection not working? Has COVID made it
He
upstairs?
hasn't answered me. He hasn't answered me in a while.
No, he's forgotten
He ain't
about me,
picking
but
up the phone. Oh, oh boy. So it seems, right?
he's
Yeah,
out with COVID,
yeah, yeah. You
Sorry, we
know,
shouldn't. This is so
I know that
sacrilegious.
isn't that how we feel sometimes, right? You feel, is he listening, or you feel forsaken, and
Oh, absolutely.
um
I mean, after I was raped for the second time, I would literally, it was just like, I would sit here and I'd be like, okay, God, why? Why did you allow all these horrible things to happen to me?
yeah, really,
And
yeah,
I finally had to realize after a long time, 13 years in Catholic school, you would think I would know this. He didn't allow them to happen. He gave everyone free will.
that's right.
They
Yeah.
made those bad choices. But it was just like, oh, I was so angry. I was just like, are you serious? Like, really? What?
Yeah.
Yeah, fine. Oh.
I mean,
No.
it's been such a
Huh?
blessing having you, Katie. Anything else that you
It's been
want
amazing.
to say before we kind of wrap up here? Anything else?
Just, thank you and, Nell in spirit, for everything that you guys do, because what you guys started was absolutely amazing. And
Oh, thank you.
to know that, you know, I'm not alone in, you know, the chronic pain or the chronic illness thing. Even though I've lived with a lot of the stuff my whole life, you know, this is all new to me.
Yeah.
And, you know, feeling alone and feeling unheard and unvalidated, you know, invalidated. And, oh, well, if you would just, you know, lose weight or do this or do that, all your issues would go away. And I know that's not the truth, you
Truth.
know, and it's
Yeah.
just like, you know, knowing that it's okay to not be okay all of the time, or, you know, whatever it is. But you guys have just been absolutely amazing. I know Misty's somewhere in bed, but, you know,
Yeah.
she's gotten me through
She'll
so
watch the
much in the
recording.
last
Yeah.
2 years. Oh, she will. She will. I should have recorded mine, but I didn't. But I know you'll record it so I can find it.
Yeah. Yep.
But no, you guys, what you guys have done has been absolutely amazing, and it's been an honor to be a part of. Even a small part of it has just
Oh.
been something amazing for me. So
Oh, well, I'm so glad. I've
thank you
really,
guys so much.
absolutely, absolutely. And thank you, everybody
Yeah,
that has joined us and continuing to support Katie Hoffman. You guys give her love, and we'll be in
thank
touch,
you,
my friend.
Rex.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so
Okay.
much.
Love you. Have a good night.
Bye bye. Love you too. Bye bye.
Bye.